I want people to become, as they say, critical thinkers
Yeah,
and to believe their own common sense and eyes.
right.
That's the thing. That's like the guy you were saying when we first started talking. When you talk to some of your, conservative leaning or MAGA people that you know or whatever, and you get in a debate, and they're like, "If you know, you know. If you don't know, then
Yeah.
whatever."
If you
Because
don't, yeah.
they don't critically think. They're not trying to think. They are just believing what they've been told or what seems to work for. I hate to use the word narrative all the time, but whatever narrative that they want to associate with. I don't have the Trump derangement syndrome where people talk about. Although he makes me, I do have a visceral. I have a
I got it because he's
well,
driving me crazy.
well, no,
I,
I have a visceral. I have a visceral reaction when I hear his voice, when I see him, all of that.
right.
But I don't. I wish people would pick up on just some of the subtle things. This is where even I do believe that Trump is you know uh, declining mentally.
Mm,
He's not out of control right now. Whatever. I mean, his because he's doing exactly what he wants to do. Because that's he's an evil dude. But
mm,
he does do some things that are off. But where he is very astute, and that's why I say he's like an idiot savant in this, is marketing and branding and imaging. And so this guy gives the commencement address to at West Point wearing a MAGA hat.
that was insane. I'm glad you
Wearing
brought that up. Yeah.
a MAGA hat. Now listen. Like I was having this conversation earlier with somebody, and I was saying, look, I'm not going to try to say, oh, commencement addresses are all that because my university had Kermit the Frog, okay, as a commencement speaker. Now I understand why, because Jim Henson is an alum, and so I understand all of that, and it was, great message, and it was good. So I'm not going to try to say, oh, a commencement should be, very solemn. No,
Hmm.
but this guy, this wasn't. Um, he wasn't an entertainer talking to West Point grads.
Mm-mm.
He wasn't something like that. This is the commander in
In
chief.
chief, yes.
You're the
Yeah.
commander in chief, dude. You're not Donald Trump's citizen. You're commander in chief.
Mm.
Take that shit off your head, dude.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know what I mean? What are you doing?
Right.
And,
Right.
and and that's the kind of stuff, because that to me is like wearing a Nazi hat. Wearing that hat, as far as most of the country, and I'll just speak for a
No,
lot
you
of the
speak
country,
for
but I'll
me
speak
too
for
on that.
myself.
Yeah.
For myself, I associate that hat with white supremacy. That's what I associate that hat
I
with.
do as well. I do as
So
well.
so so therefore, and because whether you mean for it to mean that or not,
Hmm.
it's inappropriate for you as president of the United States to be wearing that at the commencement address at the United States Military Academy. And
That was
why I have to,
insulting. That
yeah,
yeah.
but why is he now? I can explain all of that and make that point. This is where Democrats, I think, fall down. I can feel all great about making that great point. Trump is like, fuck it. This is what I'm wearing because I want people to think this is the way it's supposed to be.
Right.
And
Right.
and
Right.
and what I get frustrated with is that somebody who he's got everybody in line. That's the problem. If there was somebody that was a MAGA person who had the balls to say, it wasn't a good look for the president of the United States to be wearing that, America,
Hmm.
keep America,
Hmm.
whatever, that MAGA hat,
Yeah.
make America great again hat during commencement address. But nobody will say that. Only people say that are people that he doesn't give a fuck about.
Well. Once again, you think he's kind of astute in certain things when it comes to marketing and branding. Let's go back to The Apprentice. It wasn't him doing the marketing and branding. It was those two guys who thought this was just comedy. The two executive producers helped produce the show, got all those recordings. They talked about it and how this guy is just easy to manipulate, easy to flatter. You flatter him, you get what you want. And that's why I don't think he has everybody in line. I think there are certain people that know what to say to him so he can react a certain way to get what they want.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Stephen Miller actually is one of those people.
exactly. He's
Yeah,
one of those
Stephen
guys.
Miller's one
Yeah,
of those people. Yeah, yeah. No, what I meant though, going along with what you said, I don't disagree with what you were just saying.
right.
But why Donald Trump to be the guy, the person, the apprentice person, the guy that they built the show around,
Mm.
because he had developed this persona. He put in big names on these buildings.
Yeah.
He got his name on a helicopter. He got his name on his jet. So he is
I
just,
give you props on that. You're right.
yeah,
Yeah,
he's
yeah,
successful.
yeah,
And
yeah.
and because we live in the country we live in, he is a white man that has worked to make people believe he's a successful businessman.
Right.
Now, if Donald Trump had been, say this had been, this, I'm trying to find a good, I was going to say Bill Cosby, but Bill Cosby was a comedian.
Yeah,
So you can dismiss that a little bit.
right.
But he did, he did have the, he was taken very seriously as an academician at one time. So
Right.
I'll just say Bill Cosby. Say Bill Cosby made he did make a lot of money, but say he made enough money and he went and made a couple Cosby buildings, and he had a Cosby jet, and he had a Cosby helicopter, and he was known as being very successful in business. They would have never picked Bill Cosby.
Nope, never would have. Nope.
For The Apprentice, because he knows that the people wouldn't see him that way.
Right.
But Donald Trump knows how you can manipulate the people in this country and the world to believe that a white man is on top of things if you show them enough stuff.
He understands the power of money.
Yeah, but it's just so disappointing. Did you see what he's done to the Oval Office?
It's quite well known that the U.S. president adores everything that is gold.
Cabinet maker John LeCarte helped add custom-made gold finishes to the Oval Office, including gilded carvings for the fireplace mantle, a White House spokesperson says.
You're talking about the gold plating all over the place.
But eagle-eyed sleuths on social media claim the Oval Office decor is a cheap fake.
The Oval Office has been decorated courtesy of Home Depot.
They've matched the Oval Office accents to plastic appliques sold on the Home Depot website.
You can buy it from Home Depot for $58. And then you go to the other aisle and get the gold spray paint.
They sure look the same. Here they are side by side. Everything seems to match.
Oh, that's so tacky,
It
man.
looks tacky as hell. He has no taste, man.
None.
He eats steaks well done with ketchup. He is a DEI hire. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He is the prime. And somebody brought up why he's so pissed with Harvard, all of these Ivy League schools. I didn't realize that Barron had applied to Harvard
I'd heard
and got rejected.
It was obvious it was something personal.
Yeah, I didn't know that. And so when you look at Obama and his wife going to Harvard, and then their daughter getting accepted.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That was the last straw for him.
That just took him over the top. But I don't understand why his cult can't understand all that. But they're starting to understand bit by bit.
Right.
I saw this one particular dairy farmer. He's having to get up at 4 a.m. in the morning and do all this milking by himself,
right,
because the people that did it before, they're gone. So I'm just want to know, when do you think we're going to get to that breaking point? Excuse me. Well, we're already there. I'm already at that breaking point.
Yeah, of course.
Okay,
but there about 8 years ago I was there.
Yeah. Oh, you're right. 8 years ago.
Yeah.
In fact, 10 years ago.
Yeah.
When are his cult following? They're going to get to that breaking point. And I think you're right. I think it might be at the latest after the midterms. Hell, it could be after this bill gets passed, like you were talking about.
Yeah, my concern, and I really, but it's a true concern. I really just don't like hearing myself say this, because I don't want to sound like, one of those, conspiracy theorists that I talked about on the other side. My concern, though, because first thing, we don't know what Doge did. Really.
No. And
we have no idea what Doge did.
Yeah.
So with that in mind, my concern, see, if we had a straight up fair election, the midterms, I'm pretty sure that the Senate and the House would flip.
Yeah.
I'm confident. And unless, all things staying equal, I mean, as long as
there are a lot of signs pointing to it already that will happen. Yeah.
But this dude, he's already they're already not obeying the Supreme Court.
at
Okay.
all.
Right.
Right.
At all.
Right.
So I don't know what lengths that he will go to ensure it as much as he can that doesn't happen. So
Right.
what are they going to do? Are they going to pull a bunch of people's voter registrations suddenly at the last minute?
That's something to really, really be concerned about.
He already had, when he lost his election, he already had people run up in the Capitol, and now they've paid the family of that the woman who got killed,
Yeah, well, Ashley Babbitt
Ashley
paying her
Babbitt,
family $5 million.
$5 million.
That
I
look,
mean,
if you're going to pay anything, pay and give money to those families of those officers
yeah,
who were seriously affected by this. But
yes,
it, it, look, man, before we go to the next thing, for me, man, well, you know what? I can understand the hypocrisy, and this is why I tell everybody they do it. It's not about honoring the soldiers. It's not about back in the blue. It's all about suppressing the rights of people of color.
oh yeah,
And sometimes I just wish just say that, man. Just if you're gonna be a full blown bigot, full blown racist, stop making fucking excuses. You hear the lies like we hear them. You know that isn't true. Just say, I like him because he wears a white mask like me.
yeah,
And
yeah,
then we can move on.
yeah.
Because you got a bunch of brothers out here. Once again, we're gonna end with this, but these pro-black imposters who don't even see the racism that this guy is dishing out. What can we do about that?
I don't know, man. I don't know. I just don't. I don't. I wish I've got to give it some thought. I don't even know because I'm not. I don't know
Yeah.
because there's a lot about that. Now they're not all young dudes. I mean, some of them are
Some
older
of
guys
our
too.
age, yeah.
Some of them
Yeah.
are older guys too. But some of these young dudes, I just don't understand. And that may be a generation gap type thing. I don't know. I don't understand some of how their thought patterns are concerned. I mean,
Well,
all the way. I don't understand how some of them think, and I don't understand some of their aesthetic. There's a lot of things. And I'm gonna sound like an old dude. They're gonna, and plus these brothers will get mad at me. They're like, light skinned, old motherfucker. Well, you don't know what you're talking about. But there's certain things, like I said, they're aesthetic. I don't get, and I get about style and stuff. But I'll just use hair as an example, which I don't have anymore either. But my hair was extremely nappy when I was, when I had it up top. And I understand, yeah. But I'm just saying, I wasn't one of those brothers with the curly hair. I had naps.
yeah.
My hair. I always had to keep it short because it just got really napped up. And then for a while, I tried to when I was out in Colorado, I started growing these little dreads, and then I moved back east, and like all these knuckleheads had dreads, and I shaved them all, and then my hair stopped growing. but I don't understand. There's stuff I don't understand, like we want to have our natural hair. Fine, cool. But why don't you comb your hair, brother? What's up? You look like you get up in the morning, get in the shower, shake off like my dog, and just keep it rolling, dude. That's trifling as hell. I see these NBA players, man. These
That's their
hairs just
style.
like
I got a son.
right,
6'6", 6'7".
right,
My wife would get on him constantly about that. What is up with that look? So I pointed to Ant Edwards when he had his hair like that. I
right.
said, Deej, you're not going to win this argument right now. I said, it's like when brothers back in the 80s with the Jerry curl. You're not going to win that argument
Right,
at all. Yeah,
right.
that's a good one, man, because 70s, you got the nice, smooth cut afro.
Right,
Brothers keeping their stuff,
right,
you know,
right.
they're keeping their stuff clean. But
And I'm just saying that this is and I guess before, if we ever did have a conversation with one of these brothers here, I would first want to talk about what I'm talking about now, so we can just get on even terms. So I don't, because it's not translating to me. See, when I see, let's just talk about the hairstyle. When I see that, I already have you in trifling. You're already in the trifling column. because, bruh.
Well, I'm with you. I'm with you. I would like to get to the point where I can have a conversation.
Oh, sure.
And I want to have a conversation so we can get all on the same page. Because I like I said, the numbers don't lie. If 65% of us voted, if we just voted our numbers, we will dictate the House and the Senate.
Yeah.
And I say this because then if we're showing we're voting, those people who really didn't listen to us, now they're going to listen to us. See, the people listen, the House reps and the senators, they listen to the people who are voting.
Right.
If you ain't voting, they're like, well, what the do I need to listen? Why the do I need to work on that? You know, why do I need to even consider that? And that's just reality.
Well,
and you gotta get an understanding of what the reality is.
Well, the reality is that history is about to see. We might have snapped to it too late. See, this is what happened in Reconstruction. In Reconstruction, black folks started getting positions, voting positions in the House of Representatives and all that, and they said, "Fuck that, Jim Crow, get out of here."
Right.
You know, and he stripped rights away from us.
Yep.
And that's what they're in the process of doing right now.
Yeah, they gutted affirmative action. They're now trying to break down the Voting Rights Act. They put in suppression laws, and brothers still don't get it. I mean, you look at Houston. I believe Houston used to have, like 31 polling stations, and then they removed more than half of them. And I'm like, you brothers don't fucking get it.
Yeah.
If voting wasn't so important, why are they constantly trying to keep us from voting?
Right.
The common sense aspect should come into play sooner than later.
Right. But I believe this little cabal, I call it a cabal, that supposedly met when Obama first was elected and started hatching this plan that's coming to fruition now. They were like, this can never happen again. This kind of stuff. We were starting to get into a pure democratic republic. It's not a pure democracy, but we had a democratic republic that started reflecting the electorate in our elected leaders. And they were like, oh, hell no.
Yeah.
This ain't going to, you can't have, this cannot happen. So therefore we're going to have to change the rules. We're going to get in power and then we're going to change the rules. And that's what they're in the process of doing. The white supremacists have been always talking about sitting down and rewriting the Constitution, which can't be done. That's the other thing. People say these things and they don't think about what they're saying. When we start talking about numbered amendments, what's an amendment? Amendment is something you add on to the Constitution.
To the Constitution.
It's an evolving document. These people can, as we saw with the Voting Rights Act and stuff like that, it can be taken out.
And they do it bit by bit by bit.
Right.
They start breaking it down. And what we're dealing with now, when Obama was in office, the first thing I kept saying, all hell may break loose once he's out of office. Because these folks in the hills of North Carolina, Kentucky, and all that, they ain't feeling this. So we're gonna probably get hit with the worst. And man, So
well, see, that's what's happening. They tried to kill the Affordable Care Act. They can kill the Affordable Care Act because too many people participate in it, and it's a good thing. So what are they doing? They're cutting Medicaid.
Yeah.
See, they're like, okay, they'll find some way to get to the bottom line where they're just going to like, no, we're not going to help these people anymore. So we'll see.